Coming up this week on Ride the Lightning, the Tesla Motors unofficial podcast, Tesla cleverly lowers the price of the Model S, defiantly refutes claims of suspension troubles with the S, and more. What's happening, friends? Welcome to Ride the Lightning. It is the Tesla Motors unofficial podcast, episode 45 for June 12th, 2016. I'm Ryan McCaffrey, and I am recording a bit early this week due to a business trip to LA. I have to leave on a Saturday because of the Electronic Entertainment Expo. If you're familiar with video games, you're probably familiar with it. It's referred to commonly as E3. It is the video game industry's annual trade show. It is IGN's busiest time of the year, the video game industry's busiest time of the year. It's pretty cool, actually. It's like Christmas morning for the video game industry because you get all sorts of new game and product announcements. So the reason I state that is because that means I have to record early, which means I'm really hoping nothing major happens in Tesla news between the time I had to record this and the time it airs, because that happens to me seemingly every time I do that on my Xbox podcast for IGN. That seems to happen to me all the time. So if it does happen, I apologize. Now, before I get started with this week's news, I wanted to make a big show announcement, and that is the launch of my Patreon. I have launched a Patreon for this podcast, for Ride the Lightning, and let me explain it to you. I've been thinking about doing this for a while, but I'll be completely honest. I have been really, I've thought long and hard about it, and I just thought that I needed to earn the trust and respect of the audience first before I could say, hey, please consider supporting me with a monthly pledge. I just felt like I needed to do this show for a while. I needed to prove that it would be consistent, that it would get better, which it's definitely been consistent. I hope it's gotten better. And I'll tell you, I wanted you, and I wanted you guys to get to know me, and that I'm not just some, some guy just looking to capitalize off of Tesla's name with a podcast or something. I wanted to prove, I wanted you to get to know me so that you could see that my passion and my enthusiasm are genuine, as well as my commitment to this. We're on episode 45 here, and the show has hit your feed every Sunday at 9 a.m. Eastern Time for the last 45 weeks, with the lone exception of a pre-planned, week off over the Christmas holidays there last year that I'd warned everybody about ahead of time. So if you're the website, by the way, I'll give it up front here. It's patreon.com/Tesla podcast. And Patreon is spelled pretty much exactly how it sounds. Patreon. So it's the word patron with an E wedged in the middle of it. And if you're not familiar with Patreon, it's a way to support content creators that you love who create content you enjoy. It's not Kickstarter, because Kickstarter is for a single project that has a start and an end, and it's one thing. Patreon is more, it's for authors, it's for podcasters, it's for painters, it's for YouTubers who make videos. It's a very easy thing to do. You can, an account is simple, it's very secure, it's a very established site. At this point, there's nothing shady about it. In fact, my friends and former coworkers, Colin and Greg, started an entire business on Patreon, which is thriving a year and a half later here. Now, you can use a credit card, you can use PayPal. It's very simple, and again, it's completely voluntary. I'm hoping you'll take a look at the Patreon page, and consider making a pledge. Nothing is required of you. Nothing about the show is going to change. But, thinking about this, there's a couple key reasons I wanted to do this. And they're probably pretty obvious, but I'll go through them. I mean, the first one, honestly, is that the show has grown a lot, which I'm extremely proud of and I'm extremely grateful for. But I'm the kind of person where when I get really into something, I cannot half-ass it. I go completely all in, fully down the rabbit hole on whatever it is I'm doing, whether it's my job, whether it's something at home. It's just sort of my nature. And as this podcast has grown, which again, I'm so grateful for, by the way, it's now, pretty much any given time, if you look in the automotive section of iTunes podcast, it's in the top 10. And when I first started it used to take me a couple hours a night, one night a week, total, done. But now, in addition to all the studying that I'm doing all week by staying on top of everything and watching the stock tickers and the news and the forums, I'm writing up all the show notes. I'm, listening, screening all the Ride the Lightning hotline calls, editing it all together, putting it all together, recording it, editing it, uploading it, publishing it. It's taken actually a good bit more of my time than it used to. It's almost become its own little part-time job. One that, by the way, I love. I would, because I could stop doing this tomorrow if I thought it was, if I just didn't want to do it anymore. There's nothing forcing me to keep doing it, of course. So it's with that, that time commitment, that time, that energy, that passion, that enthusiasm, that commitment that goes into it is where I'm hoping that if you like the show, you appreciate it, that maybe you'll recognize that, and if you might consider making a pledge. Now, the second reason is probably the even more obvious one, and that's that's of course the Model 3. I am by no means asking my audience to buy me a Model 3. That's not what this is. I've got a savings thing going. I'm doing my best, but as I've said on recent shows, thing between the dog and you always got kid stuff, this thing, that thing. It's tough. It's been a tough road to try and get to the Model 3 that I want to get to, which is I want to. This is going to be the big one for me. This is a car I've been waiting for. Let's see. Well, it was announced. I mean, for me, I got into Tesla 7 years ago. I mean, it's been a long road for me, and this has been, something I've been just striving for a while. And, so again, I'm not looking for the audience to buy me a car, but I will say I'm simply being 100% honest about where all of the pledges are going to go. They are going to go into the Tesla fund to help try and get me the best Model 3 I can get. I figure, what better way to try and fund my dream Tesla than to use any pledges made in support of this weekly Tesla podcast that I started in order to do it. I mean, it just feeds itself, right? So the Tesla dream is getting closer. 2017, fall 2017 is getting closer. And I tell you, I know it's going to be amazing. I know that based on the fact that owning my first dream car, the DeLorean, was even better than the dream of owning it. Like, the actual ownership was incredible. I miss that car. I love it so much. I still do. And having it was even better than wanting to have it. And I really feel like the Tesla is going to do that too for me, in the sense that, as I think I've said before, I really think it's going to change my life for the better, in the sense that, I'm going to drive more. I'm going to take trips. I want to take my family all over the bay on weekends, and without worrying about costs or emissions or any of that stuff. It's just, we just go. We're in a safe vehicle. It's costing practically nothing, and have life experiences. And I've got family in Las Vegas. In fact, my daughter, the one family member she hasn't met is my uncle Bob in Las Vegas, who he has I don't know if I call it a travel phobia, but he doesn't leave home. He doesn't leave his home city very often. He doesn't like to travel. He is afraid of planes, and we've just not yet gotten to go down and see them. And I want to drive. I would drive down there in a heartbeat. And anyway, I don't want to turn it into like a sob story or anything like that. But it's I know that this is going to be great. And of course, you guys know I'm all in. You know, I want the top end Model 3 that I can get. I would ideally, I want dual motor and performance and upgrade and as much stuff as I can. And, you know, because this is going to be it. I'm going to be all in on this. This is going to be a dream come true for me. You know, when it's funny, when I see, I have to say this is like a petty human thing that I do. Whenever I see someone who's clearly like they have like a P90D or something, and they'll do something where I see that they don't really care about the car, whether it's like, I don't know, can't even think of a great example, but you can kind of imagine what I'm talking about. And I'll just look at it and go, actually, I'll give you a concrete example. There is a P90D ludicrous Model S parked in our building that's literally been sitting there, plugged into the Pay Blinks charger for weeks. And I just look at that car and go, well, clearly this guy doesn't care about it. He doesn't even drive it. Like, you should give it to me. But anyway, I'm getting off the rails. So that's, you know, those are the two big reasons. It's the time investment that's going into this every week, and it's being honest about where the pledges will go. You know, this is going to go into a Tesla fund, and I'm hoping if either or both of those appeals to you and, you know, and connects with you, that maybe you'll consider a pledge, whether it's $1 or $5 or $10 or $20. And I'll tell you, I prefer this to ads because I personally don't like listening to ads on shows or seeing them on TV shows. I don't want to subject the audience to ads because, as I've said several times before, I respect your time. I know time is the most valuable thing. It's funny, you know, I was listening to an interview with James Corden, the guy that does the Late Late Show on CBS, and he said something which I thought was just really kind of stuck with me from the whole interview. He said, you know, he'd rather waste money than time because time's really the only thing we have that matters. You can't get it back. You can't, you know what I mean? So it's, you know, I'd rather not subject you to 2 or 3 30-second ads during a podcast that annoy you and waste your time. So instead, I just wanted to open it up on a purely voluntary basis for those of you who might kindly pledge a bit of money every month, whether it's as a thank you for the time and effort I put into this podcast, or for those of you who want to help me make my Tesla dream come true. So again, there's nothing, I'm not creating any artificial walls. The show is going to continue exactly as is. If you don't want to pledge, nothing's going to change. You'll keep getting a podcast every Sunday at 9 a.m. But if you do pledge, I wanted to try and offer you a little something extra depending on the level of pledge. That's kind of how Patreon works. So there are tiers. I'm offering things like slightly early access to each week's episode, your name mentioned in the plugs at the end of the show, a big idea that I'm going to do. I've got the thing, remember I was telling you about how I had an idea for what to do with all the extra awesome calls? Well, one of the tiers, I'm going to do a once a month all call-in show, just nothing but hotline calls. Those ones that I can't get to that each week that are great, but just don't quite, that I can't get in for one reason or another. So I'm going to do a monthly hotline call-in show once a month. And even the highest tier, I've got you get all that stuff that I just said, plus a Ride the Lightning logo coffee mug, because the t-shirt company I use for Nerd Styles also can do coffee mugs. In fact, I have one. I sell one, our little coexist design. So I can totally do coffee mugs as well. And who doesn't love a good coffee mug? So anyway, that's enough time spent on that. But again, it is with hat in hand, just very, very humbly. Just thank everybody for their support, and I would appreciate if you at least take a look at the page. Whether you choose to pledge or not, of course, is completely up to you. The website again is patreon.com/Tesla Podcast. And now let's talk referral program real quick while we're on the subject of show business. I want to thank everyone, but especially two people. We've got 2 referrals so far. Last week, we talked about the new Tesla referral program. It's been reshaped again ever so slightly. There are interesting prizes for the 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th referrals. And then, of course, they are giving away a Model X, a ludicrous Model X, once again as a grand prize drawing that you get entered into for each completed referral. That means, so the fact that we've got 2 so far, because it's Joe Willett, the very kind soul from Michigan, who is very generously offered to give me the X. Of course, I'll pay his tax, all the taxes and stuff, but he is volunteered to get the X to me should he happen to win it. Joe is a Model S owner from Michigan, and we've already got 2 referrals so far on Joe's code. That means that thanks to your kindness and generosity, Joe has already got himself the Tesla Weekender bag that will be sent to him in the same color as his Model S interior. And thus, not only does Joe get that Weekender bag, but I have 2 entries into that Model X referral via Joe. So thank you guys so much. And again, if you are thinking of buying an S or an X in the next month or so, please use Joe's referral code. And that code, so this is, you just type this into your browser. It's going to take you to a landing page that says, okay, do you want an S or an X? You click which one, and then it'll take you to the design studio with Joe's referral code plugged in. You're going to get $1,000 off your S or X. And so anyway, that website is ts.la/Joe9713. That Joe being, of course, Joe. So maybe that referral code can get some extra use because of this week's big Tesla news, that being the Model S just got cheaper. Yes, the Model S 60 kilowatt hour car has returned from the grave. We've been seeing the batteries get bigger. This is a very interesting and unexpected move on Tesla's part. The 60 is back. I gotta say that I guess they must have just had a whole bunch of extra 60 badges laying around that they didn't know what to do with. I'm kidding, of course. The new cars, the 70 is gone. Of course, remember we just talked about how all the 70s that are shipping, the new 70s that are shipping, are actually 75s, software limited to 70. Well, that has gone away. Now it's the 60, or you can get it in a dual motor version, 60 or 60D. The 60 starts at $66,000. That's got a 210. That's before incentives, by the way. So if you're in California, that could actually get you down to $56,000. So the 60 kilowatt hour Model S, $66,000. That car has got a 210 mile range, a 0 to 60 of 5.5 seconds, and the top speed is 130, which is a bit slower than the 155 that the higher spec Model S's top out at. But I can't imagine you'd possibly be wanting to go 131 miles an hour particularly often. If you opt for the dual motor version, the 60D will add $5,000 to the price, which has been that standard price for the dual motor upgrade on Model S for quite some time. So that'll take you to $71,000 base price for the 60D. That's going to add 8 miles of range to the pack, meaning 218 miles, and shaving off 0.3 of a second on the 0 to 60 time, so it puts you at 5.2 seconds to 60 miles an hour. Now, as I just said, just like with those 70s, which are now gone, they're software locked. These are 75 kilowatt hour batteries, software restricted to 60 kilowatt hour. I really think this is a shrewd move on Tesla's part because the battery is, of course, famously the most expensive component of the Teslas. This is why the Gigafactory, one of the reasons the Gigafactory exists, another one being simply scale, economies of scale, rather just the production constraints of of the Tesla's production. The batteries are what holds it up, and that's one reason the Gigafactory is being made. But the other one is the fact that the batteries are expensive. The Gigafactory is meant to get the price of that battery pack down. So I think it's really interesting that they're putting a more expensive battery in these cars and selling them for, starting at $66,000. Because I can't imagine that the conversion rate on a 60 getting software upgraded to a 75 is that high over the life of the car. So it seems to me that Tesla might be willing to sacrifice profit margin per car in exchange for just increased overall sales volume, which, by the way, is exactly what they're going to be doing with the Model 3. So perhaps this is sort of a trial run for Model 3 in the fiscal sense. Like, let's see what the company's numbers look like when we are making less per car but selling more cars. So if you want to upgrade to that 75 kilowatt full capacity, when you order, it's an $8,500 upgrade, which, if my math and memory are correct, that comes out to $250 less than it was to get up to the 75 kilowatt hour when they first started offering that software upgrade option on the 70s. If you want to do it later, if you take delivery of your car and then down the road you decide, I think I want that extra 15 kilowatt hours, it's going to be $9,000 to do that. So that's $9,000 for 19% more battery, or effectively about 40 miles of range. It's like 39 for the rear-wheel drive 60 and 41 for the dual motor 60. So effectively, let's just split the difference. About 40 miles of range you get added for that $9,000. By the way, it's interesting to note that unlike the original 60s, these include free supercharging for the life of the car. In the purchase price, you don't have to add a $2,000 supercharging option to these cars. Matt from St. Louis wanted to call in and react to the Model S 60 announcement, so I'm going to turn the floor over to him. Matt, go ahead.
Hi, this is Matt from St. Louis. So I'm calling regarding the new 60 kilowatt hour battery pack that they're offering in the Model S. Kind of similar that they're doing with the 70. You can upgrade to the 75 kilowatt hour. My question is how the battery actually goes down to the 60 kilowatt. So do they set it to where only 60 kilowatt of the battery is active and the other 15 kilowatt is technically off? Or is it set to where it allows you to charge up to 100%, but it's really only charging the 60 kilowatt hours? My thought process is here, it's essentially, if it's the latter, then you could charge to 100% over and over and not do damage to your battery because you're only filling up 60 of the 75 kilowatt hours. I think that'd probably be the better way for Tesla to go about it, because then, you're not putting the stress on the battery. So just curious how that worked. Thanks for doing a great job. Bye.
Well, Matt, that's an excellent call, and it has to charge the whole thing in order to keep those cells viable. So you're right. You're going to be able to charge to 100 I use this in air quotes, by the way, 100% whenever you want, and you're not stressing the battery or impacting the battery's life in a negative way, in the way that you would by doing a 100% range charge on the 90 kilowatt hour pack. So that is an interesting little quote unquote perk, I guess, for this. It's better for the overall long-term health of the battery to have some of the battery sort of blocked off effectively. Now, a couple people have actually already asked me, so Ryan, are you going to jump at one of these? And while I mean they mean well, you mean well. My answer, unfortunately, is the same as it was when people would ask me, "Oh, you're going to get a CPO Model S? They're cheaper." No, and it's unfortunately it's for two reasons. First, I can't afford a $56,000 car right now. But even if I could, honestly, I just don't think I could. It would be tough to, not to look a gift horse in the mouth, but I mean, if I'm going to spend that kind of money on a car, I want some good options on it too. Like next-gen seats are a must. I've been in them. They're amazing. You're literally in them every time you're in the car, so it's hard to argue against that. Then you got to get the autopilot. Panoramic roof in California, gimme. So the list goes on. But second, I'd rather keep saving. If I can't afford a well-equipped Model S, I'd personally rather keep saving and get a well-equipped Model 3 that's loaded with 2017 tech and possibly hardware-enabled for a higher level of autonomous driving, as we're all sort of suspecting. And yeah, that same 56 grand will probably go a lot farther on Model 3. Of course, there'll be trade-offs, maybe the quality of the interior, the quality of the ride, whatever it is, things that there will be things that differentiate a 3 from an S, but but I want I could, for that same money, I could do the bigger battery pack and thus longer range on the Model 3, the dual motor, autopilot, etc. So even if I could scrape together enough for a 60 kilowatt S, I wouldn't really want to when I'd be, with that kind of money on the line. So, again, I know believe me, beggars can't be choosers. But again, like if I were going to get a Tesla, I'd want to go as all out as I possibly could because it means that much to me and it's something I'd use every day. And so the Model 3 will give me a better chance of going as all out as possible than an S or X would. Now, an S and X would change if one showed up in my driveway tomorrow, my life would be absolutely changed for the better. Don't get me wrong. But for me, right here and right now, the smarter move for me is to stay on my Model 3 plan. But I do think this is a very bold move by Tesla, and I think it will pay off. Next up this week is a thing that I normally, I try to curate this podcast so that I'm only talking about topics that are going to be interesting. I don't cover necessarily every single tiny little thing. Stuff like there've been things recently where like a Model X owner claimed that their car accelerated itself into the wall, like into a restaurant or something. And they said it was the car's fault, that the autopilot did it, and then Tesla releases the logs, and it turns out the car didn't do anything it wasn't supposed to do. So anyway, but this one here is a story that has gotten pretty big. Probably Tesla wasn't looking for this to happen, but it happened. So an owner on the Tesla Motors Club forums posted about a suspension issue and a control arm that broke off on his car. He's got a Model S with over 70,000 miles on it. He's out in Pennsylvania, and so he talks about how this control arm just snapped on him. Obviously made the car completely unusable. And the story, basically a blogger, a site you've probably never heard of, I hadn't, picks it up and turns it into a story about Tesla making customers sign NDAs in exchange for, repairs for, so that bad news about Tesla doesn't get out there, stuff like this. And what happened was a lot of more mainstream news outlets picked it up. And so Tesla then did issue a statement. I happened to just be on Twitter and caught the tweet right as Tesla made it. So I click on this because it's a blog entitled "A Grain of Salt," and I'm reading about this. This Tesla blog is fascinating. I highly encourage you to read the whole thing if you get time to go to Tesla's site. So basically, the short version is Tesla is completely refuting all of this because the report then became, the National Highway and Traffic Safety Association is investigating Tesla and this whole thing. So Tesla did fire back in what I think has become a very uniquely Tesla way. And what I mean by that is that this response is laced with pure truth. or at least Tesla's account of it, that's what comes across as a very honest account. You definitely don't, there's no spin. I guess that's really what I'm going for, because I guess I don't truly know if Tesla is telling the truth or not. But Tesla's brand of communication, I love it because it is just very direct. It's not coded in PR speak. And believe me, I have been working in the video game industry for the last 13 plus years, and the video game industry is mostly nothing but PR speak. So I'm pretty good at knowing PR speak when I hear it. And that's what, and that's not even a video game industry thing. Most industries, especially big industries, the car industry is certainly no exception. So Tesla's blog, in refuting these claims that they basically, silenced a customer who had a problem, I'm going to read you just a couple of excerpts from this because it's long. So the following are quotes from Tesla's blog about this alleged suspension problem in the Model S. A few things need to be cleared up about the supposed safety of Model S suspensions. First, there is no safety defect with the suspensions in either the Model S or the Model X. Skip. Second, the NHTSA has not opened any investigation, nor has it even started a preliminary evaluation, which is the lowest form of formal investigatory work that it does. Skip. Third, Tesla has never and would never ask a customer to sign a document to prevent them from talking to NHTSA or any other government agency. That is preposterous. Those are Tesla's words, not mine. Skip, where they explain how they sometimes have customers sign a goodwill agreement because Tesla will, from time to time, do effectively warranty work that they don't have to, and they have a customer sign an agreement so that they won't get sued over it if anything were to go wrong. Fourth, Tesla's own actions demonstrate just how rigorous we are about bringing issues to NHTSA's attention, and they cite the voluntary seatbelt recall, and the voluntary Model X third row seat recall. Skip. Finally, it is worth, this is the part to listen for. This is the gold. Finally, it is worth noting that the blogger who fabricated this issue, which then caused negative and incorrect news to be written about Tesla by reputable institutions, is Edward Niedermeyer. This is the same gentle soul who previously wrote a blog titled Tesla Death Watch, which started on May 19th, 2008, which starting on May 19th, 2008, was counting the days until Tesla's death. It has now been 2,944 days. We just checked our pulse and, much to his chagrin, appear to be alive. It is probably wise to take Mr. Niedermeyer's words with at least a small grain of salt. Now, I'm not skipping anything. I'm just going to read. This is the good part. Continued. We don't know if Mr. Niedermeyer's motivation is simply to set a world record for axe grinding, or whether he or his associates have something financial to gain by negatively affecting Tesla's stock price. But it is important to highlight that there are several $1 billion in short sale bets against Tesla. This means that there is a strong financial incentive to greatly amplify minor issues and to create false issues from whole cloth. Wow. They went on to end it by saying that, hey, we're not perfect and we've never claimed to be, but, we didn't do anything wrong here. Wow. Wow. At that mic drop, the snark factor is off the charts there. Now, as we've seen in the past, Tesla often won't comment on these things because 99% of them are garbage. And I have to say, Tesla, again, I work in the communications field enough enough to have the sense that I know that you've always got to be careful to stay above the fray and not troll the trolls, because then you're stooping to their level and it makes you look bad, even though they're the ones that are being monsters. But we have seen that when they're pushed enough, Tesla will issue a statement to defend themselves. And honestly, I love this because could you possibly imagine this letter, this kind of truth bomb laced with snark, coming from literally any other car company in the world, it just wouldn't happen. However, that being said, and again, when these things have come up, I'll say the same thing I've said before. So I don't know if Tesla is telling the truth. I don't know, maybe there is something horrible going on with the suspensions, but Tesla has earned with me, and you can call me, you can call me a fanboy if you want, but for me, Tesla has earned the benefit of the doubt in these things because they have been very open and very honest about things in the past, both about their mistakes and other things. So Tesla, to me, gets that benefit of the doubt. But I will say that if Niedermeyer's plan was to tank the stock and make money on short selling, which, by the way, that's probably it's the most likely scenario, which Tesla themselves even point out. I will say that Niedermeyer's plan might have worked, because I was watching when this was all going on. Tesla's stock dropped $6 the day this happened, and after having been on a steady uptick the whole week, and then it was down another 10 and change today to close out the week, kind of in the fallout of this. So, Niedermeyer may have won after all, at least temporarily. So just a very odd story, but it's great to see Tesla sticking up for themselves, coming to their defense. And on this note, so this got, I was not the only one to have a reaction to this. I want to go to Diego from Portland right now. We've heard from him on the show before. He wants to talk about this. So Diego, take it away.
Hey, Ryan. This is Diego in Portland, Oregon. Just calling in to vent a little bit. This week has been extremely frustrating. You may have heard of all the drama that has spilled out in the public regarding the supposedly suspension defect with Tesla Model S's. And I just find it so ridiculous that out of one issue, it gets blown up out of proportion. And I just needed to vent my frustration on it, because how dumb are these people? I mean, seriously, how many other manufacturers have issues like this that don't get spilled into the spotlight like this? And I just can't help but think back to 2013 time frame when there was a New York Times journalist that tried to show that the Model S was horrible in the winter and did not have the range that it published, and Elon was pretty detailed in debunking that, and the smell's very similar to that, or even when Top Gear falsely showed how the Roadster would quote unquote fail, and was scripted in the show that it should fail, when in fact it was a totally functioning car, and there was a lawsuit for that. Anyway, sorry for the rant, but I needed to express my frustration, and keep up the good work. I really love the show. All right, bye.
I think you're absolutely right, Diego. Tesla is indeed held to a different standard for many reasons. Sometimes it's FUD. We see what happens, that they get their targets for that. Sometimes it's competitors taking shots. But you're right, these little single incident things that would never even make the news, would never be picked up by any blogger, anybody, with other car companies, become totally amplified. With Tesla, it's because this is the road, because Tesla is changing everything, because they are upsetting the norm, they are changing the paradigm. This is the road that Tesla must forge, because it's never been forged before. I mean, this is their mantle to carry. If you've ever seen The Dark Knight from 2008, the Heath Ledger, Christian Bale, the second Christopher Nolan Batman movie, it's literally my favorite movie of all time. I love it. At one point in the movie, Alfred tells Bruce Wayne, "Endure, Master Wayne. Take it. They'll hate you for it, but that's the point of Batman. He can be the outcast. He can make the choice that no one else can make. The right choice." That was, by the way, the worst British accent in the history of British accents, so I'm super apologizing for that right now. But Tesla, don't you see, Tesla is the Batman of the automotive industry in this case. They are the ones that must shoulder it. You know, they have to bear this, but it is really interesting to see how these stories become bigger than life with Tesla, where they really, really wouldn't even blip on the radar with other manufacturers. So Diego, great call there. That is the news for this week. I'm going to come right back, and we've got several excellent calls lined up in the Ride the Lightning hotline right after this. Oh, and literally just after I'd finished recording the podcast, I'm now editing this back in, so I confess this is now edited back in, but Elon took to Twitter regarding this suspension matter, so this is now in addition to that blog. So Elon saying, NHTSA confirmed today that they found no safety concern with the Model S suspension and have no further need for data from us on this matter. Of greater concern, 37 of 40 suspension complaints to NHTSA were fraudulent, i.e., false location or vehicle identification numbers were used. False VINs. And then one more tweet. Would seem to indicate that one or more people sought to create the false impression of a safety issue where none existed. Question is why? Well, Elon, we know the answer to that, and we talked about that already. That is because they're shorts. I mean, that was even addressed in the company's own blog post. It's got to be purely, well, there's a couple things here. I'm now going to turn this into a whole edited in segment. It's going to be hopefully not too weird. So you've got the short factor. You've got people like Niedermeyer that are probably shorts, and they are looking to financially capitalize on the Tesla stock going down. But remember back to, was probably a good couple months ago now, maybe before, I know, I got a lot more new listeners after the Model 3 reveal, so this is before then, so maybe you haven't heard this, but the Koch brothers, again, I don't want to get political here, but the Koch brothers actually, they are attempting, this is like documented, this is out, they are spending a bunch of money, they are taking a huge initiative to actually try to ruin electric vehicles. Obviously Tesla's at the top of that heap. So I wonder, and they've said that they're going to be doing all sorts of things to attempt to do that. I wonder if this is a Koch brothers initiative too. I don't want to get too conspiratorial or too political either, but I'm simply floating it out there as a theory based on what has already been publicized before. So I think Elon can answer his own question. He's probably just looking to spur some public discussion about it. But anyway, all right, that is Elon's official comments on that. And now let's get back to wherever the heck I left off in the show. Sorry if this is an awkward transition, but I figured I didn't want to put the show out there without mentioning Elon's comments, because obviously they're very important in this situation. So back to your regularly scheduled Ride the Lightning with me. Back to me. All right, it's time once again for the Ride the Lightning hotline. I remind you, if you've got a question, a comment, or a discussion topic for the podcast, give me a call. I've got the Ride the Lightning hotline set up anytime. It's a toll-free call or Skype, and the number is 1-888-989-8752. That's 1-888-989-TSLA. And I remind you that if you know someone special with an upcoming birthday, anniversary, graduation, or some other special occasion, you can give them a unique gift of recorded voices from friends and family telling them why they're special. The recordings can be podcasted or put onto a keepsake. Please visit lifeonrecord.com to learn more. And, I mentioned the Patreon at the top of the show, which will include, at the certain tiers, a monthly call-in show, all calls, a bonus show every month that's all calls. I will say, if you called in this past week and you don't hear your call on the show, I already earmarked several calls to go into that first episode of the All Call-In show. So stay tuned for that. And we'll start off with, I hope I'm pronouncing this correctly. I'm not sure if I quite got it. It's Chai from San Mateo, right here in the Bay Area, San Mateo. You've got a supercharger in your neighborhood, sir, over by the Whole Foods. I'm sure you know that already. He asks about autonomous driving and if autonomous could hurt Tesla. This is interesting. Let's talk about it. Chai, go ahead.
Hey, Ryan. This is Chai calling in from San Mateo. I had an interesting question regarding the autonomous driving that we know is coming to Tesla. Just want to get your thoughts on this. So the question that I had was, do you think the autonomous driving could actually hurt Tesla more than it can help Tesla in terms of their sales? The reason I'm saying this is actually twofold. One is, imagine a family of 4 or 5. They don't need to have another car if they have one Tesla that is autonomous driving. And I'm assuming this car can drive itself, can charge itself, pretty much be a smart member of the family. So the same car can drive all the family members at their respective times, pick them up by the end of the day, whenever they need that. So that's one, and that's how it can hurt the sales, reduce the sales half or more per family. Second is when companies like Uber or Lyft jump onto the autonomous driving bandwagon. Would that A, reduce Tesla's brand value and thus reduce sales? And B, would that actually reduce the need for people to actually own cars because they can ride on the Model 3 or S through Uber or Lyft for cheap? Just wanted to get your thoughts and your members' thoughts on that. Great podcast. Keep up the good work. Thank you.
So you raise extremely interesting points here. Let's talk about them. First, if people were to only have one car instead of two, because that one car can drive anywhere by itself and sort of shuttle people to and fro, so I think Tesla's very happy with that, because think about that. If that one car is a Tesla in their household, that's a win for them, because remember, Tesla's market share in the grand scheme of things is infinitesimal right now. It's still very tiny. So if people start ditching cars and having one car in the house, but that one car is a Tesla, but let's say it's 10% of households, and then maybe 20 in another, however many years, that's huge. That's a huge win for them. As for the Uber Lyft, factor, or people skipping out on cars entirely because of autonomous Teslas, potentially negating the need for them. All you got to do there to know how that affects Tesla is go back to Elon's mission statement that he repeats almost every time he publicly speaks. And that is, Tesla exists to accelerate the advent of sustainable transportation. So if autonomous Teslas can truly take that many emissions-producing cars off of the road, then Elon's won. Even if those Teslas are in fleets or if people aren't driving at all, that's it. That's a end game. That's a victory for Elon. So great call here. Thank you so much for that. Our next call this week, unfortunately, she is anonymous. She did not leave her name. So I apologize. It feels so impersonal to just say ma'am or miss, but let's hear from her calling in from LaGuardia Airport, she's got a question about the anti-theft capabilities of Teslas. Go ahead.
Hey, Ryan. Sorry it's kind of loud. I'm calling from LaGuardia, and I was wondering about the anti-theft characteristics of a Tesla. I just have an old-fashioned car that basically just has an alarm, and it's pretty easy to steal. And I was wondering, it seems like the Tesla is really hard to steal, and you were talking earlier how hard it was for hackers to try to get into the car. So does that mean that there are no documented cases of someone stealing a Tesla without having a fob for it? And also, if someone does get your fob, is there a way to remotely deactivate your Tesla, or what are some of the really cool features that help protect the Tesla from theft? Thanks so much, and thanks for your podcast. See ya. Bye.
So, excellent call. To the best of my knowledge, you are correct. You cannot get anywhere in a Tesla without a key fob. The fob is the key. And the cars, as you referenced the discussion, the call last week, we talked about the hacking situation. The car currently cannot be hacked. The only documented cases I'm aware of a Tesla being stolen involve the key fob. And if somebody does get your fob, you can't deactivate the car through the app, but you can GPS track them through there, and then you can call the police and tell the police exactly where your car is, how fast it's going, where it's going. And then I believe, I'm not 100% certain on this, but I do believe that Tesla can, in conjunction with the police, with the authorities, I believe Tesla does have the capability to shut down the car if that's what's decided is the best course of action. So you have to remember, they don't let you do it from the app because it's a potential safety concern. Whether for a million reasons I'm sure you can fathom, both in theft situations and even in non-theft situations. But the essence. So you think about it too. I mean, it's you kind of remind me of a good point that Teslas are very well heralded for their safety features and their safety rating, but the S and X are not only the safest cars in the world, they're also the most theft-proof. We don't hear that talked about very often. Excellent call. Next up is Ramy from the Netherlands. Wants to talk about the Model 3's HUD. He's got an idea for it. Ramy, take it away.
Hey Ryan, this is Ramy from the Netherlands again. I have an idea about the heads-up display in the new Model 3. I hope that Tesla would make it like augmented reality, so that when you look at the road, that you can see the lane that you have to take lighting up or something, or getting green, something like that. I'm curious about your thoughts about that. I think it's going to be complicated because it has to be aligned with the eyes of the driver. But if you think this could be possible, I would love it. And let me know what you think about this. Thank you. Keep up the good work. I love your show.
So while what you propose would be amazing, I don't think we're quite ready for something that advanced in an affordable mass market consumer car just yet. And I actually have a somewhat valid reason. I have a bit of anecdotal evidence to support this. The reason is because I've used AR. Last year at E3, which is, as I said at the top of the show, that's where I am now as you're listening to this week's episode, I got to try Microsoft's augmented reality headset, which is called the Hololens. This is no exaggeration. It was amazing. I was floored by it. It was incredible. It was an incredible experience. It was a Halo themed simulation. Halo is the big Xbox game, if you're not familiar. It was an amazing augmented reality experience, but there's a couple things. One, the development kits are like $3,000. So, this is still very expensive technology and possibly even more hazardous than that in the case of having this on a Model 3. The field of view on the HoloLens, because of the computing power involved, the field of view, it's like a mail slot. It's very small. That was the big limiting factor of the experience that I had with Microsoft's HoloLens set. So, unless Tesla is secretly about to deploy the most advanced consumer-ready AR tech in the world, which, by the way, is not completely out of the question, I just don't think it's something we're going to see in the first generation of Model 3 or anytime soon on any other Tesla. But I definitely think we'll get there eventually, and I'm sure Elon will be at the front of it because he seems to be pushing all kinds of cool tech, just dragging the industry forward whether they want to or not. All right, excellent call. I got one more for you this week. Let's go to Mark from the UK. He has a question about autopilot, and it's a fun question. Let's hear from Mark. Go ahead.
Hello there. My name is Mark Johnson. I'm from the UK. I'm on the verge of ordering a Model S. Just a quick question. As regards autopilot, do you think they would ever consider using autopilot when it's certainly more developed into autonomous driving, to having cars drive themselves for a service overnight for their annual service. I think that'd be a really useful feature, and potentially could take it further in driving cars to drive themselves to the nearest supercharger if you didn't have a charger at home. Two potentially quite useful features for the Model S or X or whatever it comes with. Love the show. Thanks very much for doing the work, and we'll speak to you soon. Thank you. Bye.
So, Mark, first of all, thank you for the call, and please use the referral code. Use Joe's referral code if you haven't ordered your car yet. It will work anywhere in the world. Would love it if you would use it. Let's give Joe another tier up on the referral prizes, and I would be very humbled and grateful for another entry into the Model X raffle that's going on. So again, that URL, if you missed it at the top of the show, Mark, is type in your browser ts.la/Joe, Joe, 9713, and that'll take you to a landing page. You can select configure your Model S, build it, order it, and you'll get yourself $1,000 off of your S. Now, to your question, yes, this could totally happen. This could absolutely happen. In fact, Elon has already talked about it. Elon himself has said that he sees a time soon where you could theoretically fly from your home in New York out to LA. Say you're going to be out there for a week. You could send your car and you could have your car meet you there. The car could drive itself, plugging itself into superchargers along the way, autonomously driving itself, and then you got your car in LA because you need a car in LA if you've ever been there. Or there's the prospect of summon deliveries, where you actually take delivery of your new Tesla by having the car drive itself to your house. That is it sounds like it's science fiction, but this is Elon Musk we're talking about. This is where we're heading. Probably in the next 5, maybe 10 years tops, I would have to think, but I think Elon's going to get us there. Though, I gotta say, we need that charger snake to get finished and deployed first, where the cable automatically comes up and plugs itself in and unplugs itself from your Tesla. So we're missing that piece, and then we need the autonomous driving piece, but that's it. Then it's good to go. Your exact scenario is completely plausible in the near future, Mark. So thank you for the call, and if you do, in fact, pull the trigger on that Model S, I say pre-congratulations to you. I have little doubt that you will enjoy the heck out of it. And I wonder, I don't know how many Model S's are over in the UK, but odds are you're probably going to be a rock star in your neighborhood. That is it for the Ride the Lightning Hotline. Again, got several more good calls, but just want to manage the time of this episode. So if you called in this past week and you did not hear yourself, there's a very good chance that you're going to show up in the very first Ride the Lightning Hotline episode, again, which will be monthly as part of the Patreon that I have set up at patreon.com/Tesla podcast. Be right back to wrap things up for you right after this. All right, as Maggie the Boxer munches on her dinner behind me, one more time I'll mention I would be just eternally grateful if you would take a look at the Patreon page that I've set up at patreon.com/Tesla podcast. I talked enough about it earlier in the show. I'm not going to go through the wrap again, but Twitter, you can follow me on there at DMC_Ryan, or you can always email me. The email address for the show is teslapodcast@gmail.com. If you're a video game player, then this is the week for you, actually. As I said, as you hear this, I am at E3 in Los Angeles. It is Christmas morning, which spread out over the course of a week for the video game industry. So my day job is IGN.com. I'm part of the team there. We are covering the heck out of E3, all the big announcements, hands-on with all kinds of hot new games. It is the biggest week of the year, so if you are a casual gamer, hardcore gamer, if you're a hardcore gamer, you probably already know. But anyway, I'm on IGN.com by day. Nerdstyles.com is my little t-shirt website where I've got some video game and just generally geek-inspired t-shirt designs of my own creation, as well as a coffee mug if you'd like to outfit yourself with any of those t-shirts. Dave T's weekly Tesla newsletter is subscribed to for free at teslaweekly.com. It is a fantastic resource, as is the newly redesigned teslarati.com. The crew, Gene and the crew over there, are very, very supportive of this podcast, for which I am truly grateful. It really just helps get the word out to more and more folks in the Tesla community, the growing by the day Tesla community, I might add. So thank you, Gene. Thank you to the team at teslarati.com for your support of the podcast, mentioning it just about every week. If you do have a Model S, or if you're getting one from the referral program, maybe you're using the referral code, taking delivery, you can get this podcast in your car via the TuneIn app. Go to the TuneIn website, find Ride the Lightning Tesla Podcast, or search Tesla Podcast on there. You'll see it, you'll find it, follow it, then it's going to show up in your favorites in your car. So that's pretty cool. And next week, now that the Patreon, this is the official launch of the Patreon now, starting next week, this is the part of the show where I will thank everybody at the thank you tier, which I believe, I don't have it in front of me, I believe is the $10 per month tier. So your name here next week, potentially. Thank you all so much. This episode has, obviously, this is a big one for me with the launch of this Patreon, and some cool, or at least very interesting Tesla news to go over. Man, it just gets more and more interesting every week with this company. That's why I'm so glad I started this podcast. I'm so grateful for your support. And I will see you all this time next week. Happy electric motoring.